Right, well, welcome ladies and gents. Are you a purist or another ist? Well, that's what everyone thinks you are. If you didn't like Amazon's Rings of Power. This is their inbuilt go-to. This is what they all do. They've got to have it. It's got to be said, isn't it, ladies and gents? Got to do it. And try as Amazon might, you can't hide that many negative reviews. People just don't like it. People just don't like it. And you know what? This is what you get when you hire people who have literally no credits. And they even acknowledged it. They've been acknowledging it. Did you know, ladies and gents, who Patrick McKay and JD Payne were? Do you know any of them? Did anyone? No? Never heard of them? Yeah, because they got basically no credits. Why, Jeff Bezos, would you give Patrick McKay and JD Payne $1 billion to make the most expensive show of all time? So every showrunner's dream is to get notes on early scripts and cuts from the executive chairman. They just love that, he joked. I want to thank you both for listening whenever it helped, but mostly I need to thank you for ignoring me at exactly the right times. Well, ladies and gents, I bet you probably wish that they didn't ignore you now. McKay and Payne had minimal credits before coming aboard the Rings of Power, and Bezos acknowledged that some people questioned the choice of hiring them. But in the end, Bezos said it was one of the best decisions to cast relative unknowns because we saw something special. In what? They don't have credits for you to see. Bezos also shared the advice that his son gave him, which was, yeah, don't fuck this up. But his son's angry now. So let's take a look. Again, anyone who dislikes it, you're a whole round of ists, alright? You're just a bunch of ists, okay? And this dude's mental who writes this. I suspect a lot of families are going to be paraphrasing Martin Brody at the end of episode 2 Lord of the Rings of Power and declaring, we're going to need a bigger television. That's because Prime Video's new J.R.R. Tolkien adaptation is such a grand, lavish production that it simply must be seen on the biggest and best screens. Yeah, you can buy it from Amazon, I guess. Sure, like, it looks fine, but it should be better. It's the most expensive show of all time. And it's, you know, the cinematography is not even as good as House of Dragon. There's a serious problem at that point. And most certainly not on a smartphone. I've spent the past couple of years debating whether to get a new TV. Mine's 11 years old, which qualifies it for a television museum. And Lord of the Rings has just convinced me. Oh, great. Are you going to link us an Amazon affiliate as well? The show's grandness begs the question of whether something so cinematic should really be told on the small screen. Put another way, is a streaming site really the best format for a fantasy epic featuring the ultimate battle between good and evil? I mean, at this point, Star Wars is now the ultimate battle between good and evil. The fact that Amazon plans to tell its Lord of the Rings story over 50 hours, over 5 years, certainly suggests that this format is the right one. And you thought Peter Jackson took his own sweet time getting to Mount Doom with his movie trilogy, which took up most of my 30s. Yes, but that was good. This is also clearly a labour of love for Amazon. Nah. One that catapults it into the bigger league and might make us forget that only 6 years ago Prime Video's idea of going big was Woody Allen miniseries called Crisis in 6 Scenes. How big a league? Well, in addition to the $250 million that was reportedly spent on securing the adaptation rights from Tolkien's estate, literally the appendices was what they could do. Season 1 alone is reported to have cost over $400 million or over $50 million per episode. $50 million? Fuck me. $50 million does not get you much anymore, does it? I remember, does anyone else remember this? When HBO came out and was like, the last season of Game of Thrones, they're going to, some of the most expensive episodes, they're going to cost $10 million. And you know what? I look back at that and I go, even that still looks better than this. Oh, it's woeful. 50 million. What is going on with these streaming services and the budgets? Disney has been spending like, they're like WandaVision. The cost of that was insane, and that wasn't. This must be money laundering at this point. It has to be. 50 million per episode. What has that bought you? Wow! Goodness me! If you run a special effects house and haven't been offered work on Lord of the Rings, you really shouldn't take it personally. With this kind of money at stake, it's easy to imagine Jeff Bezos clutching the series scripts tightly and maniacally murmuring precious to himself. Whatever. In a rare public appearance, Amazon's head honcho revealed that the show's UK premiere last week, upon hearing that Amazon had bought the rights, one of his sons said, "Dad, don't F this up." And while we can only wish that Bezos' heir might care so much about unionisation and toilet breaks, the good news for Bezos Jr. is that initially at least, Amazon most assuredly hasn't effed up. It absolutely has. And here we have, this is the way they mock people that liked Tolkien. Some folks regard Tolkien's work as holy scripture. I mean, there are literal Tolkien scholars, because Tolkien was an expert at language. He crafted an entire world. He literally created languages for his world. So, yes, it is deserving of that sort of title. But I've always been somewhat immune to the 25th century English writer's charms. Honestly, being forced to read The Hobbit as a youngster put me off all novels for about a decade. Wow. So basically, what you're getting, ladies and gents, here is an article from Adrian Hennigan telling you how he was an inept child, didn't enjoy reading, had terrible English literacy skills, and as a result of that decided not to read very much for a decade because he blamed someone else for his shortcomings. That's fantastic, isn't it? So the only thing I really like about Tolkien is the fact that Led Zeppelin albums would have been a whole lot shorter without his books proving such an unlikely source of inspiration. Oh, fantastic. So you're sitting there going, Amazon's definitely not messed it up, but I don't know anything about Tolkien. I just equate them to Led Zeppelin. You're a douche. While it was impossible not to be swept up with the majesty of Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, his Hobbit trilogy left me rather cold. How do you know you've not read it? Even revisiting the longer version of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King recently, I was surprised quite how bored I was by much of it. How do you know you've not read it? So it's fair to say, I was interested in Amazon's new adaptation. Well, because they're adapting something you've not read, so it's fine. Well, they're not adapting anything, because they don't have the rights to anything. Most because of its scale and importance to the streamer than anything remotely connected to Middle-earth. What? There was also a nagging doubt, given Jackson's definitive telling of the storyless less than 20 years ago, what could a TV version possibly offer to justify its existence? I mean, this dude's mental. And then check this out, part of me would have loved it if Amazon had done a George R.R. Martin and sexed up Middle-earth a little, giving us orc orgies and horny hobbits. What do I say to that? Orc orgies and horny hobbits. What? And in the process, perhaps giving a whole new meaning to Lord of the Rings. That's an anal sex joke, ladies and gents. But no, this is very much the same vibe Jackson presented in his trilogy, a family-friendly spectacle with PG-13 rated violence. Even though Amazon spent $250 million on the rights, the Tolkien estate was never going to say, go ahead, it's all yours, turn it into Euphoria with pointy ears for all we care. There are some obvious tonal changes between the TV and film versions, however, heightening how things have been advanced in a few short years. There's very much a modern retelling where the women are just as likely to kick orc butt as the men. They literally... Did you even watch the films? They literally did that in those films. One of them took down the Wraith King, you dickhead. Indeed, of the main characters in the first season, about half are fearless females who are either swirling swords or charging headlong into danger. Oh, fantastic. Absolutely love it. Some ringers are apparently upset that the beloved character Galadriel, the eternal elf played by Cate Blanchett in the movies, has been turned into a Xena warrior princess-esque badass in the series. At this point, it's worth remembering that Tolkien himself called the books most ardent admirers his deplorable cultists, or cultus. So, and then there are the morons who, like the casting of Stephen Toussaint as Lord Corlys Velaryon in Game of Thrones prequel House of Dragon, find it hard to believe that a fantasy world might actually feature non-white actors. Oh my god! I hate you so much, you're so dumb. There is something quite predictable nowadays about turning female characters into action heroes. But isn't that better than the alternative? Just look at the main Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring film poster from 2001, where the male characters are wielding weapons while the female characters are armed with nothing stronger than a powerful stare. The self-awareness on this person is mental. Like, he has none. No self-awareness. Nothing at all. No self-awareness. Aided by the form of... Morpha Clark's terrible as Galadriel. She has the weirdest, like, crazy eyes ever. I can't read any more of this. This is such nonsense. The Tolkien geeks and racists are clearly finding things to moan about. But just like HBO's rival fantasy series House of Dragon, I'm more than happy to go along for the ride. Now I just need to decide what size TV to go for. I hope you buy a TV so big, like it ruptures your retinas. Douche.